walks through the house. He starts snooping. He finds Paul's shoes and notices a familiar seed on one. He tells Roscoe he's leaving. Outside, Reacher figures out that the only difference between the girls is the glasses. Everything else is different. He thinks the cons who attacked him meant to take out the one with glasses. He had sunglasses because he took them from a fellow inmate. Reacher suspects Hubble is either on the run or already caught. He shows Roscoe the seed he found on the shoe, and she identifies it as a hitchhiker seed. It could have grown where Joe's body was found. They go to investigate the spot, but there are no burrs. Reacher still thinks it matters. He believes Joe's shooter was a skilled marksman. He breaks down the details of the killing and crime scene. He can tell the shooter enjoyed the kill. Roscoe asks about Joe. She wonders if they were close or had family. She asks what Joe did for work. Reacher says they were close when they were young. Joe had no family and worked with Homeland Security the last time they spoke. He doesn't know which department, since they hadn't talked in a while. Reacher suddenly walks off to find a motel and turns down Roscoe's offer for a ride. Roscoe follows him to the motel. He comes out of the office and a group of young men starts to harass him. Reacher knows they've been waiting for him. Kleiner paid them to deal with him. Reacher isn't interested in dealing with them, but one of the boys, Graham, throws a can at his back and threatens to beat him up. The fight starts, with Reacher breaking their hands, leaving one kid to drive. From her lookout, Roscoe wonders what's going on in Margrave. In the morning, Reacher takes a walk and notices a dog with an empty water bowl. He hops over the fence and fills the bowl with water from the hose. The owner comes out, claiming he gave the dog water earlier, but Reacher calls him a liar. The owner tells him to leave, so Reacher pets the dog and leaves. He heads to the station, but when he gets there, Roscoe can't talk because Chief Morrison was killed. Reacher says he didn't do it and Roscoe knows he didn't. He gets in the car with her. When they get to the crime scene, Finley is already there. It's worse than anything Reacher saw in Boston. Reacher realizes Morrison was nailed to a wall. Inside, the crime scene matches exactly what Hubble told him about in prison. Jasper the coroner is giving his report when they arrive. Reacher figures it took 4 men to kill Morrison, and his testicles were found in his stomach. Finley pulls him outside, and Reacher explains Hubble's warning. He lied earlier because he didn't know if he could trust the Margrave cops. Finley suggests Joe might have been dirty, but Reacher disagrees. He does think the Margrave PD is dirty, though. He remembers how Baker didn't worry about him escaping at the station because he knew Reacher was innocent. Reacher knows Roscoe isn't dirty, but wonders about Finley since he's next in line for Morrison's job. Roscoe steps in, saying that Mayor Teal made himself acting chief, meaning Teal is dirty and Finley is fine. Morrison's death was a message and Roscoe and Finley can't handle it alone. The 3 of them need to work together. Reacher thinks Hubble is already dead. Reacher and Roscoe head to Hubble's house where Charlie says Paul never came home. Roscoe decides to stay there since she's armed, but sends Reacher to talk to Finley. Reacher needs Hubble's car. He takes a knife from the garage lockbox and tells Roscoe to shoot anyone over 6'5" who comes near the house. She won't give him a gun. Reacher goes to the town meeting where Teal is giving a speech about making himself chief of police. The townspeople jeer at both Teal and Finley. Teal denies that the murders are connected. Mr. Kleiner steps in, vouching for Reacher's innocence and saying his brother was one of the victims. He talks about how Margrave was a mess 5 years ago, and how he helped turn it around. He promises to fix things. KJ and his cousin give Reacher a glare from across the room. After the meeting, Finley talks to Teal about connecting the killings. Teal refuses, saying they're not linked. He sends Finley to search through the archives of Morrison's recent convictions, because the killer is likely one of those people. Teal also refuses to let the highway murders take priority over Morrison's death. Finley tells Reacher that Teal sent him off on a wild goose chase. Reacher thinks Kleiner is dirty and worth checking out, but Finley warns that looking into him could make the town hate Reacher even more, and then he'd be stuck digging through the archives. Reacher wants them to pretend to look into those cases while they actually focus on the real work, like checking out Joe's rental car. They also need to protect Hubble's family. Finley decides to call his FBI buddy Picard from Atlanta to watch over them since he trusts him. He also tells Reacher to get a phone. After Finley leaves, Teal approaches Reacher to offer his condolences for Joe's death. He promises to find the killer and says he'll keep Reacher updated before leaving town. Reacher makes it clear that he's staying in Margrave, which doesn't sit well with Teal. Reacher buys a phone at a store next to Mosley's barbershop. Mosley expresses his sympathy about Joe but warns Reacher that some Spanish-speaking guys have been asking about him. Reacher wonders if Mosley is worried, but Mosley insists it's just about business. Reacher might need another shave soon. Charlie talks to Roscoe about how Reacher is a good person who can help them. Reacher comes back and tells Charlie to pack up because she's going into custody with FBI agent Picard. Charlie hesitates, but Reacher says this is what Hubble would want. He reluctantly admits Paul is probably dead, but Charlie has to look out for her kids now. Roscoe is shocked. Reacher leaves to wait for Picard and notices a children's bike outside. Reacher remembers being back in Okinawa, where a group of older boys is picking on a special needs kid, Billy. Reacher steps in and scares the bullies off. Billy's dad arrives, and the bullies run away. Back in the present, Reacher notices a black car pull up and watch him before driving off. He bursts in and tells everyone to leave, even though they're not ready. The door opens, and Reacher grabs Roscoe's gun. The man reveals he's Picard and Reacher verifies his identity. He helps Charlie get the bags into the car. Picard tells Roscoe this operation is off the books, and he's taking personal days to watch the family. He doesn't want to get burned, and Roscoe promises she won't let that happen. After Picard leaves, Reacher sends Roscoe back to Finley, and heads to find Spivey at Warburton. Whoever's paying Spivey is running everything. Reacher calls Spivey pretending to be Finley, and sets up a meeting to get their story straight about the prison incident. They meet in a bar parking lot late at night. Spivey isn't surprised that Reacher set him up, so he did the same. A car pulls up and a man with a gun stands in front of Reacher. The trunk opens and the man orders Reacher to get in, but Reacher refuses since it's too small. He knows the man will hesitate, and he uses that to his advantage to disarm the guys. Reacher ends up in a knife fight with one of the men, and the brawl gets worse with Reacher getting cut in the back. The police arrive, and Reacher runs off with an officer chasing him. Roscoe is at the Margrave PD looking into rental cars, but it's a dead end. Reacher shows up, covered in blood after things went wrong. Roscoe patches him up, though he refuses stitches. Finley is mad that the guys in the fight weren't caught since they can't question them now. Reacher jokes that he tried to sound like Finley but couldn't pull it off. Finley reviews what they know. The men in the fight were South American military. Roscoe found out Joe worked for the Secret Service, but that could mean anything. Reacher suspects it's related to counterfeiting since Hubble worked in bank management. Roscoe's waiting for a call from the Office of Investigations. Reacher wants to search Spivey's house, but there's no public info on the guard's address, so Finley sends him home. Reacher tries to go to a bar, but Finley shoots it down, saying the townspeople are already angry. Reacher leaves and Finley puts Roscoe on Reacher duty again. In the parking lot, Roscoe offers to take him to a roadhouse out of town since she knows he needs a drink. She says it might even play the blues music he likes. She needs to change first, and Reacher needs a shirt without blood on it. They drive to the roadhouse and Blind Blake is playing on the radio. They arrive, have some beers, and a Patsy Cline song comes on. It's the law to dance, but Reacher doesn't. His mom taught him to dance, but when he asks, it usually ends with a lot of punching. Roscoe teases him, calling him Frankenstein's monster, and they slow dance together. When they're ready to leave, it's raining. Reacher starts to take off his jacket for her, but she doesn't need it. She runs out into the rain and jumps in the car. As they drive, they pass a scene with police cars. Reacher pulls out a gun from the glove box, but Roscoe assures him they're far from Margrave. Reacher doesn't think that's far enough and tells her to duck when he says to. They stop and she shows her badge. Learning that the bridge is flooded, she asks if there's a motel nearby. Reacher wrings out his shirt and Roscoe apologizes for not having anything his size in her truck. He gets food from the vending machine and goes to the Clark bar. He reminisces that every base he was at as a kid had Clark bars. He and Joe could always count on that. He offers her half, but she prefers Zagnut. He jokes that no one likes Zagnut and dares her to read the flavor on the chip she's eating. Spicy Cajun crawtators. That night, Reacher sleeps on the floor while Roscoe takes the bed. He's been in worse places, and she's never left Margrave. Her family's been there since the town was founded. The Conklins built the town, but the Teals got in with the railroads, stole the town, laid tracks, and swindled farmers out of their land. He asks about her family. Her parents died when she was a kid, but she had Gray, the former chief detective, as a second dad. He taught her how to be a cop, but he hung himself a year ago. He always gave her daisies on her birthday because they were her favorite. She asks about his family, and he says he only had Joe left. If it weren't for the Blind Blake song, it would have been years before he found out Joe was dead. Roscoe admits it's been nice getting to know him, even with the circumstances. He says he feels the same way. In the morning, they head to Roscoe's house and find the front door ajar. They investigate, weapons drawn, and find muddy footprints but nothing missing. The footprints are from rubber overshoes, which could belong to either of them. She closes the door and finds a message carved into the wood. See you soon. Reacher says he's going to need a gun. After the home invasion, Reacher immediately wants to protect Roscoe, telling her it's normal to be scared. This frustrates her, and she snaps back, calling him a condescending jerk. She explains how she could have joined the FBI or CIA but chose not to because she can't stand the nonsense. She doesn't need him to look after her. She's not scared, just furious that someone broke into her home, the one she worked hard to fix up in a town her family built. She grabs a box from the shelf and opens it, revealing an impressive gun. She hands it over to Reacher, who test-fires it, blowing a huge hole through a tree stump. Reacher, Roscoe, and Finley visit Jasper at the medical examiner's office to learn more about the second body found. The body is identified as Pete Jobling, a trucker with a clean record aside from a traffic violation and a disorderly conduct charge that a lawyer managed to erase. Roscoe gets a call from Molly Beth Gordon, a special administrative officer with the Secret Service who worked closely with Joe. She's shaken by the news of Joe's death, and Reacher tells her Joe had been heading up anti-counterfeiting operations. He'd been investigating something classified in Margrave, but Molly Beth promises to get Joe's files to them. Reacher insists she only bring the hard copies. Finley announces he's heading over to Spivey's house and asks Roscoe to go back to the police station to keep up the act that they're investigating Chief Morrison's murder. He tells Reacher to visit Kleiner Industries attorneys to get more info on Jobling's past run-ins with the law. At Margrave PD, Roscoe keeps up the charade with Teal, telling him she's starting to look into the list of ex-cons he gave her. Stevenson asks if that's the best use of her time, and Roscoe stands her ground. He then shares his concerns about his cousin Charlie and Paul, who've been unreachable, and he's worried about what's happening in the town. Meanwhile, Finley sneaks into Spivey's house and checks his phone logs, finding several calls to Kleiner Industries. Before he can investigate further, he's ambushed by a uniformed officer who accuses him of robbing the town and gives him a beating. Reacher walks into Pete Jobling's attorney's office using the name Brian Doyle and pretending he was hit by a delivery truck from the Home Depot. But when he finally admits he's there for information on Pete Jobling, he doesn't waste time and uses violence to get the attorney to print out Jobling's file. Meanwhile, Finley is let out of a holding cell at Alton PD by a fired-up Roscoe. She's furious that two officers beat him up and jokingly asks when the last time was that they caught a burglar wearing a three-piece suit. Finley calms her down, saying that cursing shows a weak mind, but he appreciates her having his back. On the way to the car, he tells her that he did get some valuable information. The team regroups at Jolene's Chicken Shack. Reacher goes over Jobling's file and discovers that the Kleiners had covered Jobling's legal fees. Finley shares that Spivey has disappeared but had multiple calls on his phone made to Kleiner Industries. They decide to head to Kleiner Industries to confront Kleiner, while Roscoe continues searching for Joe's rental car. At Kleiner Industries, Kleiner denies knowing anything about Spivey or Jobling's situation. He urges Finley to stop investigating, but Finley stands firm, warning Kleiner that there will be serious consequences if he continues to interfere with the investigation.